When you're looking at the history of New Jersey mayors in recent history, we had a Republican in Chris Christie. Now there's a Democrat in Phil Murphy. I'm curious if we could look at the approval ratings of the standard bearer of the Republican Party, Trump, as well as Governor Phil Murphy. Now, what are their approval ratings in New Jersey?
And this was very interesting because we have Trump at 47% approve, 47% disapprove, Murphy at 40% approve, 45% disapprove. You know, as you said, there have been somewhat recent Republican governors of the state of New Jersey. I think looking at this, it's going to be a competitive race come election day. You know, I do recognize that Ciattarelli, if he is indeed the nominee, is very much cut from Trump's cloth. But as we see here, Trump is not deeply unpopular in New Jersey. We did see him get within a single-digit margin last November in the presidential election. So, partially this is very surprising, but in some ways it's not that surprising. New Jersey has had this history. We've seen recently electorally how close it can be. And so seeing these approval numbers, they're very interesting. I do think that it's going to make for a competitive race in New Jersey in the gubernatorial election.
Yeah, if you could read the tea leaves even further there. I mean, what does this indicate? Because President Trump in the Garden State has a higher approval rating than Phil Murphy. If I'm someone in the Democratic primary, and if I'm not someone, especially Mikey Sherrill, does that make me nervous? If I'm Ciattarelli, does that, do I have a sigh of relief here? What does that really look like?
Yeah, totally. If I am Cheryl, I would be nervous about that approval rating for sure. I would probably seek to maybe distance myself a little bit from Murphy, show how I'm different, how you might govern in a way that isn't necessarily typical of a Democratic governor. And if I'm Ciattarelli, then these are wins in my sails. Seeing that number, seeing it even, you can't necessarily expect Trump to have a positive approval rating right now in a state like New Jersey, but seeing it even, that really does have to boost the Ciattarelli campaign, and I'm sure that they feel very good about that.
And as you and I have been looking at the past governors there, I mean, it's obvious that New Jersey voters don't reliably vote for one party or the other when it comes to their governor. So it could boil down to the issues. So what are some of those top issues facing voters in the Garden State?
Yeah, you're right. And this is where it could be make or break. So the economy, 45%, persistently the top issue, both in New Jersey and across the country over the past couple of years or so. But we don't really see that number coming down. We do see a lot of news coming from the administration on the economy and tariffs. So that really could influence, at the national level, it could influence how New Jersey votes on election day. Second place here is housing at 12%. I think that ties in, again, with the you see it more among younger voters. And then democracy, threats to democracy at 11%. I think that this really, really could come down to how voters in New Jersey are feeling about the economy, about housing, inflation. All of that is really going to influence how they vote on election day. And if President Trump has managed to improve the economy, if folks feel like the economy is better, inflation is coming down, then I think that's really going to help Ciattarelli and Republicans generally come election day.